Welcome to the Fear Fiction Podcast. Fearfic is the term for short horror fiction, mostly posted on the web. It includes any and all related subgenres. Join three assholes talking basement goo Slimebeast, inebriated interstellar traveler Abysmii, and irritable ghostly man-horde Dead Palette, as they read all stories horror and internet-related, paragraph by paragraph, and bullshit while they do it. From adolescent revenge fantasies to subtle postmodern narratives about real-life events and everything in between, they read it and critique. You better believe it. Kick it to the cold open, white boy.
So I have a question for you guys. Have you ever had art teachers who have corrected, quote-unquote, your artwork?
Oh, yeah.
Not art, but poetry.
Interesting. Like, wrote over it or drew over it?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so that's a fucking shitty thing, isn't it? That's a good way to fuck a kid up and make them hate you and hate what they're doing.
It turned me off of writing poetry for over a decade.
Wow. And then he came back with his all-new book of poems. What would your book of poetry be called, Abysmii?
Bottle
Fuck
with
you.
a View.
Fuck you, Miss Traginsky.
Yes! Traginsky. Miss Traginsky, not teaching trigonometry, but poetry. But yeah, I've had several people draw over my artwork. Like, back when I was a little kid, we had to draw like a winter scene, and I drew like a pond and, you know, shit like that around snowman, shit like that. And the teacher looked at it, and she says, the water would be frozen, so it has to have lines. And she draws lines across the pond, and I'm like, my artwork, you've defaced it. Another time I had a teacher, this was actually in high school, if you can believe it, but I went to high school in the South, so we had an art teacher who had us draw suns and planets and stuff like that, and I drew like maybe 5 like planets with like monster faces, because I'm a piece of shit. I'm an edgy, you know, emo teen at the time.
Yeah.
Monster planets with like fangs and, you know, blood and shit like that. And I get it back later, and the art teacher says, oh, I like to think that they're a family. And so I look at it, and they all have curly hair drawn on the top of their heads.
The fuck?
I'm like, what?
What?
They're a family, so they all have the same hair.
I like to
fucking
think
psycho.
I like to think they're a family, and therefore curly hair.
Yes! But, the one that I think really is the best thing, which isn't actually someone drawing over my artwork, is, we had to draw, in public school, we had to draw angels, for Christmas. Now, we didn't actually draw them because we had like a template, you know, like a outline of an angel, and we could fill in the facial features and clothes and things like that. And before the day where we had to draw the angels, which were going to be used like in a school presentation for parents, before that day we had like a dry run where the teacher said, okay, you're going to be drawing angels tomorrow that are going to be used for this special thing. So I'm giving you a bunch of copies to practice on. And I don't know about anybody else out there, but, you know, my dad worked in cigarette sales, so
He worked in cigarettes.
He worked in cigarette. My father was big in the cigarette world, but so cigarettes were a very common thing for me. So I drew my angels smoking because it was like totally just normal, and they all had cigarettes and everything. And so the day came where we were doing the official drawings that were going to be used in this presentation for parents. And I drew my angel, my one angel, and drew a big fat old smoky cigarette in its mouth, right? Teacher doesn't look at any of them, hands them off to the person who's going to be putting them up for this presentation, who's like an older woman, you know, one of these like battle tank, you know, type hard asses.
Mm-hmm.
So she comes into the classroom, comes bursting into the classroom, comes up to me with my drawing, and says, did you draw your angel smoking? And I was like, why? Yes, why? You know, like, why is that a problem? I don't understand what's happening. And she goes, well, I would hate to think that that was how he died. And I'm like, I was like, holy shit. And it's one of those moments where you're not, like, on the verge of crying, you're not scared, you're not anything like that, you're just, like, incensed.
Yeah.
So I said directly to her, I said, well, I drew all my angels smoking yesterday. And so she turns to the teacher, the art teacher, and she goes, is that true? What do you think the art teacher says?
Oh.
The art teacher says no. So I was like, motherfucker, adults are liars.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, that's a Cold opening, I guess.
I died from smoking, still can't break the habit.
Yeah. I mean, it's heaven. You can do what you want.
I'm Saint Barbaro,
Saint Barbaro.
Archangel of Tobacco.
Archangel of Tobacco, goddamn.
Do you think, like, the newbies, when they get to heaven, he just, like, blows smoke in their face? Welcome to heaven.
I mean, that's some fucking Neil Gaiman shit, but, like, there's got to be new angels now of whatever, like, the current shit is, so...
I ate a Tide Pod!
The Archangel of Jewel Pods.
So, DP, tell us a story about some time someone drew over your artwork.
Oh, Saint Vaporeus, come down and protect thee, my child.
So I'll try to avoid giving too many specifics because he's like a known, like, quasi-famous person. But I had a teacher who, in college,
Bob
was
Ross.
like, huh? Who?
Bob Ross?
Yeah, Bob Ross. No, Bob Ross is cool. This person is not. Bob Ross is also a like traditionalist artist in most respects, and this guy is like a postmodern piece of shit. Anyway,
Postmodern piece of shit is my favorite band.
It was an art medium that I'm not good at, and I would propose to him ideas of like, hey, this is what I want to do, and I'll just give you an example of what it's like. I would be like, hey, I want to make something that was like, hey, guns are cool. And he's like, yeah, but like, what if instead of making a thing where like guns are cool, what if like guns aren't cool because I don't like guns and you do that instead? And it's like, dude, bud, like,
Jesus,
could you go fuck yourself? Like,
right.
You're here to help me make my art better, not to make my art be your art.
I don't know, DP.
If you want...
Making counterculture artwork? I don't know.
And he was just like a really weird, bitter guy, unhappy with his life, trying to make everyone else that way too. It's like, I'm happy with what's going on in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Don't project this shit onto me.
Lame.
I did make a cool thing on his class, in his class, and I still have it. It's we had to make a maquette, which is like a small sculpture that is supposed to be representative of a big sculpture, and you would like take it to somebody and say like, here, this is what my proposal is. Mm-hmm. And so my maquette was, I wanted to make a giant
gun.
Giant gun. I wanted to make, I want it to be like a gun, but I want it to be like a big gun. And more fire bullets. No, so it's like a sculpture of the word fuck, made out of rusty steel.
Ooh.
And so it's like a small one that I made. And my idea was to make one that's like bigger than the FCC building. And it just so happens that the FCC building is kind of shaped like a giant donut. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to like get helicopters to bring in the word fuck and drop it into the middle of the FCC building, and just like the FCC building now just says fuck.
What if you put it next to it and it said fucko?
Yeah,
now I'm your teacher. What if you did this instead?
No, see, that's an actual like proposal. It's like, what if it said fucko instead? It's like, yes,
that's
similar
cool.
concept, understandable.
What if instead
what
of fuck,
it said friendship?
Yeah. Tell
like,
me that's not what he said.
No,
okay,
no. But he did continuously. It's like, but why does it have to be made out of why does it have to be made out of rusty steel? And it's like, well, that would be like way more metal. Mm-hmm. And he's like, I don't think you have a real reason. It's like, no, I do.
Fuck?
It's like deconstructing shit for the sake of deconstructing it. It's like, what if instead of, an F, what if they all had different fonts? It's like that. No, I want them to all be impact font. It's like, why? It's like, I don't know. Maybe it's impacting the FCC building, you fucking idiot. It works on layers.
Wow.
It's like fucks have onions.
I'm just picturing your art teacher sneaking in. You've got everything laid out in a computer document that's going to be sent off to like people to make the giant fuck sign. And your teacher sneaks in at night when nobody's in the school, and he just changes the font to Comic Sans. This looks better because it's nicer. All right, so artwork and criticism of people's artwork and people who don't know what they're talking about criticizing other people. Shall we get to these stories and criticize them? And tell
Can we,
people how they should have written them.
Cul-de-sac.
Cul-de-sac. The hell?
Who likes Ed, Ed, and Eddy? And the answer should be everyone.
I like Marie Canker. That's about it.
We all do.
Yeah.
Ed and Eddy, best Cartoon Fridays lineup.
There will never be a waifu war over that. Everyone is firmly on board with Marie Canker.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, this has been a good episode, everybody. Look forward to our Marie Canker centric resequel, where we're going to be talking about Ed, Ed, and Eddy movies.
This is pretty good, but what if all three Canker sisters were just Marie Canker just 3 times?
That's right.
It's like, good.
What if they were making out
God, they're
in their
sisters.
trailer?
And what if they were making out with me?
Yeah. Their green teeth.
I think you should both cull your sacks, and we should read cul-de-sac.
We hadn't always been there, okay?
Here.
But in the neighborhood has... Even before it was a neighborhood on Earth, this one had been here.
What?
Here for those that would be lost on those cursed grounds. Here for those who would die long before their real life ever truly began. Here for those who never really wanted to grow up.
Toys R Us.
Well, alright, so this is aping off the theory that everyone in Ed and Eddy is in purgatory.
Isn't this the theory?
I thought this was the theory.
I haven't read this before, but I thought its reputation preceded it.
I saw it in a different article.
Oh.
Number 15. Ed, Ed, and Eddy, cul-de-sac purgatory.
As you can see, the boy named Rolf seems to be talking a load of bullshit. Do you think what he's saying has any meaning? I'm not sure.
The last thing you want in your
character?
standards and practices building is a giant sculpture of the word fuck.
The last thing
Unless
you want...
it's in Comic Sans.
The last thing you want to find in your Canker sisters is Marie. Wait, no. Who the fuck is this guy?
We come from different times and we come from different lives. But one thing remains true of all of us. We lived on the earthly realm of the neighborhood at some point in our lives and died long before our time was supposed to come. We don't remember much of our lives in the cul-de-sac since the last member of our group joined us. And certainly we won't remember now when the next spirit comes. But here is what we do know.
So wait. What?
This is all a bunch of fortune cookie bullshit.
If I didn't know, and I'm not going to make any bones about it. If I didn't already know about, quote unquote, the Ed, Ed, and Eddy limbo theory, like where all the kids are dead,
Mm-hmm.
I would be reading this saying, I have no idea what the fuck you're saying.
Yeah.
Yes and no. This isn't really a terrible start for me. For me, it's kind of flowery for my taste, but I understand where it's coming from, and I get a vague feeling of where it's going. So I'm not too perturbed by it.
This thing with the neighborhood, it says, we haven't always been here, but the neighborhood has. Even before it was a neighborhood on Earth, this one had been here. And then later on it says, we lived on the earthly realm of the neighborhood. I'm like, what is the wait, what? Neighborhood is what?
When you tread the path that winds up to the heavens, be careful to note that the path may indeed spin off into other paths and other heavens. And it just kind of keeps going.
Okay. All right. Fucking Rod
Oh,
Serling.
Rolfie then.
Rolf was the first to come here. I guess he's the first person to ever die? I don't know. Rolf was the first to come here. Unlike most of us, he was born in far-off lands, multiple lands, and even in the afterlife hasn't lost the touch of his old world upbringing. Stupid dead boys! He lived in the neighborhood before it was developed. The son of a shepherd, he and the rest of his family came to start a farm on the lands that would soon turn into the place we would all eventually reside in.
So sometimes these lost episodes / theory things end up just being straight goofy. It's like, he was the son of a shepherd. It's like, God damn it.
Yeah, we know.
We know. We watched the show. It's really funny.
So, is the neighborhood a real place, or is it...
Yes.
The neighborhood is on Earth and real, but it's also the neighborhood, which is where they all are. Okay. He died
above, so below.
Rolf died in 1903. While tending to the family's animals, the bull broke loose from its pen and, in Rolf's efforts to stop the beast, he was trampled to death.
Nana! The bull is out of the pen again!
Oh God, my spleen is out of my body again.
This is the episode where everyone finds out DP's terrible secret that he can't do a Rolf accent.
Rolf is not easy, though.
What accent can you do from Ed, Edd, and Eddy?
I could do an offensive double D. That is
Kevin. It's just a bro.
What about Plank?
Plank is tough.
Dead Talus doing his Plank impression right now.
Yeah, there you go. That is why, even though he brought many of his family's livestock with him in spirit, he chose not to bring cattle along. He continues to go about the farm's business on a daily basis, but is more than happy to occasionally neglect them to play with the other children of the neighborhood. I gotta say, right off the bat, I know that this is kind of like a goofy decompression story from doing all of the ridiculous shit we already had to go through with the no sleep river country stuff. This is charming to me. I don't think that this is great. I don't think this is terrible, but it's charming.
Yeah,
it's quaint.
I just wish
reserved judgment.
I wish that the flowery language was a bit tighter so that it wasn't like the realm in which the neighborhood exists beyond the plane of the... It's like, just say the neighborhood is what we call limbo. Like, whatever. Not exactly that, but, you get the idea.
It could
Life
be
has
simpler.
many neighborhoods, Ed boy.
God damn it.
What makes you think it's this one? No, the idea, though, of, like, this place has always been here. That's good. That's, it's very The Shining in, like, a weird bullshit creepypasta way.
In a Canadian cartoon from the 90s way.
Yes.
All right.
Also, if anyone, like, comments below that they don't like Marie Canker, your comments will be removed.
You're blocked.
Yeah. And this is not a joke. We will actually do that. All right, so Abysmoid?
Johnny was the lonely child. No, he had Plank. In fact, Rolf actually became his first human friend ever when he came to the cul-de-sac after his death. His parents moved onto the grounds of Rolf's former farm not long after his death. Okay, so we're just kind of ignoring everything about the show then now?
Yes.
With no other children around and no field work to take up his time as it did Rolf's, Johnny drew into his own mind to a great extent. From the plank was born.
From the plank was born the neighborhood, and the neighborhood to descend into the sky realm, peering down upon the children as the bold trampled the weak underneath. Abysmii, tell me
did
you
I
are
write
not...
this story? Yes, I did.
Tell me you are not a flat planker.
All I'm saying is we need to entertain other possible explanations of why Plank is a 2x4.
Plank, Plank is flat, just like the Earth. Plank is not. The Earth is not circular like a jawbreaker.
God damn it.
Plank is a fucking vengeful dickhead, and that's canon.
So it should be from that, Plank was born, but instead we have from the Plank was born.
Which I like more.
Yeah. Together, they wandered about the countryside, climbing trees and getting themselves into trouble. Sadly, this didn't last forever, as a few years later Johnny became bedridden with illness. I thought he was dead.
He got an illness from Plank.
He got space tuberculosis.
He got space tuberculosis. The 1922 space tuberculosis outbreak.
God damn it. So Johnny became bedridden with illness. In 1922, he died after a long battle with tuberculosis. He saw his imaginary friend Plank standing by him to his last breath.
That's fucking creepy.
Is it his imaginary friend, or is... Wait a minute.
Plank's real.
Is it trying to say that Johnny was still alive? It says, became his first human friend when he came to the cul-de-sac after his death. Are they saying that Rolf came there after his death?
That's the issue with this stream of consciousness writing, especially with the pre-established IP. It's running into the problem of, I want to kind of rewrite the story, but I need to place it both in the life and afterlife, and they're muddling the lines between.
In the life and times of the cul-de-sac that has always been here,
So
the Ed boys doth the fuck.
It was the Ed of times. It was the Ed of times.
And so Rebecca Sugar did draw the Ed boys fucking each other.
Oh, yeah.
So here's the thing, though, that I think we're kind of missing here is I think it's saying that Rolf was Plank. I think that Plank was Johnny's imaginary friend, which was the ghost of Rolf.
Are you wait. Are you making theories about a theory story?
I don't understand it.
But everyone who's ever seen Ed and Eddy knows that that's simply not true. And the two are on screen at the same time, and everyone acknowledges their separate identities.
But when Johnny
Abysmii
was alive,
have you ever seen Plank and Rolf in the same place at the same time?
Yes.
Good point.
Here's the thing. Johnny is alive. He sees his imaginary friend Plank standing by him in his last breath. So he sees his imaginary friend standing there. Is that the ghost of Rolf that he's calling Plank?
Rolf actually became his first human friend ever when he came to the cul-de-sac after his death.
Which I think means Rolf's death, but because Johnny is later bedridden.
Johnny.
Oh,
Yes,
I
Papa.
took that as Johnny's death.
Befriending Wood? Yes, Papa.
Fucking cankers? No, Papa. Even who gives a fuck?
Whatever.
Even now in the afterlife, without the countryside to play in, Johnny still wastes much of his time frolicking through the backyards and streets. Okay.
Eddy, that is double D.
Mm-hmm.
Wait,
no.
No, it's the like schemy one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Eddy was the next to come.
Mm.
Eddy was born in New York City, but moved to the neighborhood in 1932.
Yeah.
Just as the Great Depression was hitting full swing, the neighborhood, while still different, was beginning to take form from its fields of its past as families moved in and split up the land that had once belonged to Rolf's family. Always a schemer, Eddy looked to do anything to bring some comfort to his bare family life, even if it cost him the friendship of others.
Okay, so
Eddy,
to our Ed and Eddy experts, was his family a group of nudists? His bear family? Jokes.
typos are funny, but this is a clever little idea that, like, hey, why is Eddy got like this New York schemey accent?
Yeah.
Oh, well, it's because he's from New York. Okay,
Right.
Eddy died in 1939 after one of his grand plans to swindle a sap backfired. He drowned trying to cross the local river, trying to run away from the angry kids that he had tried to deceive. Even in the afterlife, he keeps chasing after the almighty dollar. Why not tell us what the scheme was? You might as well.
Can
Eddy,
I
deep
point...
in the fires of Mount Doom, did create the one ring to scam the children of the neighborhood. Into it he poured his greed, his gumballs, and his jawbreakers.
Mm-hmm. I have a question for you guys. Have you noticed that we've lost something?
Time?
That plus the most of the flowery language.
Yeah.
I would prefer.
Yeah.
I know that we still have some flowery language here, but I would prefer if this had from start to finish been like, Eddy, here's how Eddy died and what time frame he was, born in, and so on and so forth, just so you could look and say, yeah, that does make sense. Oh shit, is this true? But when you throw in the flowery language, it's like, oh no, this is a story, not really, not really an actual theory. Like, guys, look at the episodes and there's clues to this,
That's the problem with making a theory pasta. Is it a story or is it a theory? Obviously, it's fictional, but like, which tack are you going to take?
Well, that's the problem with all of them, is that they're bad.
They're just bad.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
There is what's it called? Crybaby Lane, which like kind of has like, it's like an actual story, and then near the end they have like weird little theory stuff, and that was like cute idea. The story overall isn't great, but like it's an original story. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. Sarah and Ed came together not too long after that. brother and sister. By the late 40s, the cul-de-sac had already nearly taken its final form as one of the pre-planned developments that became popular in the post-war era. As brother and sister growing up in the chaos of World War II, they both had various ways of escaping their lives as children of a dead GI and a working mother.
Mm-hmm.
Sarah became enraged and controlling as she thought to become the most beautiful in the land, to make sure that everyone around her knew that she was in charge, all in an attempt to copy off of her view of the hustle and bustle of her often working mother. Wow, that is a convoluted clause.
See, that's like trying to keep the flowery language in it, like at the end of the paragraph saying, oh yeah, I'm supposed to be.
And the mother did hustle and bustle, and bustle and hustle she did.
And the mother did hustle her bustle into a tussle. She burst a corpuscle, which caused quite the fussle.
Sarah, fairest of all the elves, did reach out to Frodo and
screamed,
Ed, on the
what?
other, and screamed. Ed, on the other hand, went about it a different way.
Okay, I need to hunt that down on archive of our own. Ed, and Eddy, Lord of the Rings crossover.
The
You
Fellowship
have my
of the
axe.
Ed.
No, I don't.
The one jawbreaker to rule them all.
God damn it. Before we get into saying which Ed and Eddy character would be which Lord of the Rings character, like Johnny, I guess, would be Smeagol, but he just shut it out entirely. In fact, he shut out nearly everyone and everything in the world entirely. Becoming what appeared to be a complete idiot. Ed chose instead to become completely involved in the monster movies and comic books that began to pop up after the war had ended. See, some of these are really good details for a theory. Why is he so into these things? They, came up at this point and blah, 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 then you connect it with some other shit, whatever. But yeah, it wasn't too long after that, in 1953, Ed and Sarah died in a car wreck as their mother was taking them to visit their grandparents.
God damn it. God damn it.
Abysmii and car wrecks.
Never look up fucking archive of your own. Just don't do it.
No, in the time that Slimebeast was reading, I was Googling, there is not. Sadly.
Yeah, well, I looked up archive of your own for Ed, and Eddy, and the first hit is Kevin and Ed having rough anal sex.
Is that the title?
No, but that's half the tags.
No, man, that's just how it is, man.
Fucking Christ.
What did you expect?
Was that written by R. Sugar 482?
You just go to I love how Abysmii goes to a porn site and he's like, oh man, why is there porn on this porn site? Naz came a time after the brother and sister. Naz was a flower child.
What?
Born to a pair of hippies, turned establishment in the late 60s. She was naturally beautiful. She was a naturally beautiful girl that had always had her way with boys and men alike.
Well, that's gross.
What age frame are we talking here?
Mm-hmm.
She lived life on a whim and would often go about flirting and playing without any intentions. She died in possibly the most horrible way any child of any child in the neighborhood.
Okay, here we go.
In the late summer of 79,
Oh, God.
a serial killer had broken out of a local asylum and slipped into her house in the dead of the night and raped and killed her along with her entire family.
I'm back.
Wait, so she raped the entire family got raped? Just man, woman, and child, all of them.
Listen, I do not support any of his actions, but his work ethic is astounding.
Look, I don't want to have to do this to you, but I'm a serial rapist. It's what I do.
Oh, God.
Why? Why did we have to come across 2 rape stories in a row?
Well, we're getting to the I don't know. I don't even want to say.
No, let's just keep going.
Go for the story.
God damn
Go
it.
read a story.
In the trauma of these events, she, in a way similar to Ed, shut out the world entirely and forgot of her parents and siblings, which is why in the afterlife she doesn't ever receive demands from the non-existent parents, unlike many of the others. This gives her much more time to lounge around and party, as she often does. Cool.
What do they mean by party? Are we talking about like a little snow play here?
No, it's just...
She hitting the slopes?
Okay, that doesn't line up though, because Naz is a babysitter to Eddy in one episode.
Yeah, no, but like he thinks that she's like flirting with him, but she's just like, I'm not flirting with you. What?
Yeah, but she's not partying. She actually has shit to do.
When
whatever.
did this become the Lovely Bones? That's what I want to know. It didn't take too long before Ed, Double D, joined the rest of the neighborhood. He was the child of two highly controlling professionals in the age of greed that, despite their constant absence, dominated his life. The age of greed, I guess the 80s, even though we haven't said it?
Sure.
As such, Ed became quite the intellectual and a rather meek and shy figure. Always the curious type, he loved to experiment when given the time away from school and the constant chores of his parents. This would lead to his untimely demise in 1986, when he built a DeLorean that could travel through time.
Why'd you turn into Yogi Bear?
1986. As a gas leak combined with a Bunsen burner from one of his experiments tore him and his house to pieces. The Ranger's
Yogi,
not gonna
I don't
like
think
that.
you should be typing fan fiction anymore.
And so, Kevin and the other character I can't remember had rough anal sex.
Dude, it's Kevin and Eddy, dude. Why don't you know the common ships?
I didn't remember who it was. Is that hashtag Keddy or what?
Well, don't make it a thing. God
No,
damn it.
dude, shut up. It's
Stop
already
it from
a thing.
being a thing. They're fucking 12.
It's not in the fictional your headcanon verse.
Okay.
They're adults in your headcanon verse.
Oh god, all grown up.
No, they're already dead, so they're all automatically...
Jesus Christ.
Okay.
This is not making this any better.
It depends on the life of the child. Being the timid and subservient type, between various misadventures, Double D continued to follow the written orders of his parents long after his death. Okay, I'm out of this. I'm done. Not with the story, but with my paragraph.
Kevin was the next to join the group. He was born to the... What?
Kevin was the next to join the group. He had rough anal sex.
I was hoping from the rough anal sex, yeah.
Oh god.
He was born to the day of Ed's death.
He was born on the day of Ed's death, maybe like a year later or something. Sure.
And in as many ways, his polar opposite, Kevin, came from a broken home and developed a bold personality. If you enjoy dirt biking, you are white trash. I'm sorry. Jesus. It doesn't matter your skin color either.
I thought you were still talking about rough anal sex. I thought you were going to say, if you enjoy dirt biking, we're not judging you.
Petition to make dirt biking a new pseudonym for anal sex.
Oh god.
Oh god. No, I'm perfectly on board with this.
I had a Superman while I was dirt biking yesterday with my boyfriend.
Oh man.
No, dirt biking is when rednecks have anal sex.
Oh
yeah.
Anal sex.
Yeah.
Going mudding.
I was going mudding. So I was noodling with my friend Ed, and we had nothing else to do, so we started mudding. I dirt biked him real hard.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Dirt biked a new hole in his rear. In life, he was... was cynical and angry and took it out on many of the other children. His abusive father would rarely pay him any attention in life and would end up bringing about the end of it.
Oh.
In a drunken rage, his father beat him after Kevin attempted to stand up to him. He died on his way to the hospital in the winter of 1999.
His father was Mr. Bear. Go ahead.
So this kind of origin story is very serious, but like the detail of like children fighting back against abusive parents is like an uncomfortably real scenario.
Yeah.
As opposed to the very like silly idea of like, oh yeah, and guy broke in and like raped them all to death. Like that's not that doesn't hold the same weight as this does.
See,
Mm-hmm.
I would be on board with this in total, warts and all, if it dropped the flowery talk at the beginning and gave some reasons why this person is saying what they're saying. Like if it said stuff like, and the reason this character has, the Band-Aid on his forehead all the time is because he was shot in the head. Like that type of thing where, because when you just say, this character was shot in the head, unfortunately, me as someone who is not that connected to the show is just like, okay. But if you say, the reason for this thing that was always on the show is X, Y, and Z, I'm like, oh, interesting. Someone came up with their own explanation.
Yeah, all of them kind of have that to some degree, some more than others, except for like Naz. The Naz one is just really kind of out there.
The Naz
You know what
one
would
is
make
kind
this
of weird.
effective? If we weren't being told, we were being shown, and this was a conversation between all of the characters in the mannerisms that we're all familiar with, and by we I mean the people who've seen the show, as opposed to just, remember how Kevin was a bully? His dad beat him.
Right.
Or you could take it from the tact of like, there's, I'm a historian, and let me tell you, a lot of terrible things happened in this specific cul-de-sac, and then you just break down the timeline, and then don't mention that it's Ed, and Eddy, and then at the end, oh yeah, by the way, this is Ed, and Eddy, mic drop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
His father spent the rest of his life in prison. In the afterlife, Kevin changed his perception to the opposite of what his life really was, with a distant father who would shower him with gifts. However, he continued to maintain his bullying even in death.
Okay, so how you could hide... This is for maybe like a tip for people who maybe write something else in the future related to like a theory about a show or something. Since we're already doing a bit of flowery stuff with this, we could go sort of like with a like iconish kind of thing and say, instead of Kevin was the next to join the group, you could say the bully was the next to join the group.
Yeah.
And just refer to them as like a character trait. And that way people maybe won't make the connection about what it's about until the end. Like with the, Rolf kid, you could say, something like the farmhand, was the, blah, blah, blah. But,
the stinky foreigner.
Yeah, the stinky foreigner.
He's
Stinky
Norwegian.
foreigner. Stinky foreigner.
In the last season, he's revealed as Norwegian, which was a terrible, terrible reveal. They should have kept that a mystery.
Stinky Foreigner, by the way, is a really bad Foreigner cover band.
I'm hot-blooded.
You ever give a girl a stinky foreigner?
Sometimes when I'm dirt biking. Alright, so...
Jimmy was the last to come to the cul-de-sac. He died in 2000, not long after moving into the house that Kevin's father had once lived in. He had leukemia since he was barely old enough to walk. Poor bastard. As such, he was always a very sickly child, and due to his overprotective parents, he never really got to be around other children. He lived his days out in a small bedroom, completely neglected by the outside world. Jimmy lingered for quite some time in a state of near death, but in the end, finally caved into the suffering of his lifelong illness.
And that's when he saw him for the first time. Jimmy doesn't remember how he met Mr. Widemouth.
See, here's the thing. I confused Jimmy and Johnny. That's how much of a fan I am.
Johnny is a freak. Jimmy is a metrosexual.
Okay.
Yeah, the question is, do you ship Jimmy and Johnny?
What would that ship name even be called?
JJ.
So here's my question. Was Jimmy... The show began in 1999, which I looked it up. Was Jimmy introduced to the show in 2000? Because otherwise...
Jimmy was part of, like, the very first episodes.
Okay, so he died in 2000, but he was on the show before 2000.
This has so little actual coherence and continuity with the actual show.
I get the good one. The Canker sisters were different from any other denizens of the cul-de-sac. They were never of the earthly plane of existence. They're angels. Instead, they are the children of demons, not too dissimilar from the succubi of human lore. They're succubuses, guys.
I'll suck you, bae.
They seem to possess abilities impossible by the standards of others, such as the ability to appear nearly anywhere instantly. They were sent...
suck nuts through straws.
God damn it. They were sent from hell to torment the already tortured souls of the neighborhood. Surprisingly, they are attracted to the Eds for unknown reasons. Although
they're horny.
They're succubuses. Although it is speculated that they are the weakest-willed members of the neighborhood, how dare you, and are seen as easy targets by them.
Wrong.
Despite that, they are universally loathed and often feared by everyone, including the Eds. Original author unknown.
They mean the Ed's the weakest one.
I gotcha,
okay.
yeah.
Okay.
So I have read this somewhere else before, because someone was pointing out how the Canker sisters are the only characters with certain colored tongues or something like that.
Which I don't know is actually true.
Maybe
because,
that was just somebody's fetish site. Look at their tongues.
Like, I'm pretty sure different people have different colored tongues throughout different seasons, just because like cartoonists are not keeping track of that shit.
Right.
So that's like, it doesn't even hold up there. It's a fine theory, but yeah. Original author unknown.
Jeez.
I don't think that's going to exist on the Wikia anymore, given the new rules.
Well, far be it from us to tell other people how to run their stuff.
This was quaint. It was a time capsule.
Mm-hmm.
I like that they're just like, for unknown reasons, and it's speculated. Like, why is it speculated? God narrator telling us facts, allegedly.
Doesn't really do anything for me.
As I said, I got more on board with it, except for the obvious stuff that was like, why would you do that? I got more on board with it than I was at the beginning, because at the beginning I was totally not down for this. I was like, no. But then as it just got into the cold details, where it just, said this, that, and the other thing, point A, point B, point C, then I was like, okay, now I can actually read through this and just get information, as opposed to a bunch of poetry, which, as we all know, poetry is not a real art form.
Correct. We all agree. Abysmii, I think your poetry would be better if it wasn't poetry.
Yeah.
What if you crumpled it up and then like you put it into a diorama?
Yeah.
What if you crumple it up, put it in the trash can, and then jump out the window and kill yourself?
What if you threw it out and then just painted a picture? That'd be good.
Oh God. What teacher is that? Mr. Sudoku, I guess? I don't know. Mr. Sudoku is always suggesting the kids kill themselves.
The sculpture's pretty good. What if you stuck it down your throat and choked on it to death?
I see what you're doing here with your paintings, and I like, the idea of like the colors, but what if you take the tube of paint and eat it all and call poison control?
What if you drank the paint and died?
I see that you're gonna put a gun to your head and pull the trigger, but what if you got a better job and fixed your life? What?
No.
That's the opposite. It's the opposite of the entire premise.
Mr. Sudoku, I need to go to the bathroom. What if instead of going to the bathroom, you just take a dump in this trash can?
On my chest. What?
Rub it in real quick.
Mr. Sudoku, some friends and I are gonna go dirt biking.
What if instead of dirt biking, you break into someone's house and kill and rape all of them?
Jesus Christ. Mr. Sudoku, you are the worst guidance counselor.
I'm envisioning like the frosted glass door that says Mr. Sudoku guidance counselor.
A kid puts his head through the glass, impaling himself in the eye, and dies, and you just see in the background he's sitting at his desk going, Good job.
Nodding. Good job.
Good job, Jimmy.
I like your can-do attitude. Excellent use of deadly glass. Why is this so fucking stupid?
Oh, this is what we get for recording 2 episodes in one night.
Shut up.
Instead of doing a podcast, how about all 3 of you
Jump off a cliff.
stick your heads in wood chippers and
You should all get in a car and go to a convention center and drive into it.
Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ. Mr. Sudoku. I think that's terrorism.
Hey, like I'm not actually like looking at my phone or like, on it. I'm like working. But do you mind if I like put my phone over there and charge it? It's like, what if instead of charging your phone, you break your phone, go off the grid, and live as a dirt person?
Oh, God.
Go find some of the dirt people and go dirt biking.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Rugrats?
Is Mr.
No.
Sudoku... Mr. Sudoku was the guy who oversaw that experiment that Ted Kaczynski was in.
What if you just kept shocking them?
Have you ever considered mailing people some bombs?
I love how he's slowly turning into I can beat your ass at Bubble Bobble.
Can we... I was wanting to, carve this pumpkin. What if instead, maybe you go to the store and steal watermelon and throw it at security. Defensive watermelon.
Oh.
I was really thinking of making like a video blog or something and like turning it into an abstract art project. Well, what if you film people in the bathroom?
And, just send it to me.
and then he just
put it on Twitch.
He just puts his red suit on and becomes the red flag, and all of a sudden he's just overloaded with charisma.
God damn it.
Oh, we made red flags alter ego. Yes.
Mr. Sudoku is a humble guidance counselor by day, but at night, he's the red flag.
God damn. Oh.
You're in
It's
trouble
like-
for having your skirt too short. What if you took off your shoes?
Fucking hell. Oh.
God damn.
Alright, little Cindy, I'm gonna need you to write something 1,000 times on the blackboard. It's gonna be your phone number.
This is the worst episode.
Let's go back to the terrorism. I prefer the terrorism. This is getting worse than terrorism. Rugrats theory, guys. What do you think? Let's read Rugrats theory.
I hope instead of reading Rugrat theory, we read Jeff the Killer 2015.
Fucking hell. Mr. Sudoku, please. Oh my god.
Oh man.
Instead of creating Steven Universe, why don't you do Ed, and Eddy fucking?
The 3 of them, yes.
Alright. Rugrats theory.
Original version. The Rugrats were a figment of Angelica's demonic and unimaginable imagination.
Unimaginable imagination.
What if
Shut
imagination was...
So wait a minute, the original version is just really bare bones, huh?
What if you...
God damn it.
What if John Lydon's imagination was unimaginable?
Oh, God.
Picture all the people not actually there.
Chucky died in 1986 along with his mother. That's why Chaz is a nervous wreck all the time. Tommy was born in 1988, but he was a stillborn. That's why Stu is constantly in the basement making toys for a son who never had a chance to live.
This is really rapid fire in the beginning here.
I feel like I want to move on from my stillborn son's death. What if you
what if you, we build the Twade Cento and blow it up again? What? Mr. Sudoku, why are you back on terrorism? It's almost as if it's a better topic than where we were going with it. Why don't you read this last one of the rapid fire things?
Sir, I don't know what to do. I had unprotected sex, and now I'm pregnant, and I think maybe I should get an abortion. Why don't you, maybe instead of getting an abortion, raise the child and abuse it?
Oh, Jesus Christ. Mr. Sudoku.
Oh,
You're getting too real, man. You're getting too real, Mr. Sudoku.
Oh. Brandon, finish this.
Why don't you put the stillborn in a jar? The DeVilles had an abortion in 1990. Angelica couldn't figure out whether it would be a boy or a girl, thus creating the twins.
Okay. So, all the kids are dead, and Angelica just imagines them.
Sure, whatever.
You
Cool.
dumb babies! Not even real!
Dumb aborted babies!
Jesus Christ! You dead babies!
God damn it.
As for all grown up, the teenage Angelica became addicted to various narcotics.
Yes.
What if you gave Angelica opioids? Which further aggravated her schizophrenia, bringing her back to her childhood and thus her creations she obsessed over because of time lapse between the present and the last time she interacted with her creations. She made them older. I don't care what that sentence said. Angelica was constantly taking hits of acid. So she would never have to live without her creations, who were her only company. In a judgmental world, Angelica's mom actually died of a heroin overdose in 1982, just after Angelica was born. And Drew, in his depression, married a gold-digging whore that Angelica idolized because she fooled herself into thinking it was her real mom, but always had a concept of her mom, Cynthia, and took a Barbie doll and made it after her mom's image,
Jesus.
wearing an unwashed orange dress and having jacked up hair, which is why she was so attached to it. Later in life, she followed in her mom's footsteps with drugs and everything, dying of overdose at age 13, when all grown up was quote-unquote canceled.
Later in life, she followed her mom's footsteps with drugs and everything.
It would have been more appropriate if her mom died of death by electrocution. That's why her hair's all sticking out.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, why don't you travel back several years and write this story?
Okay.
All right.
Man, if you haven't watched Eddy and Eddy and Rugrats, this makes no sense.
Far be it from me to rewrite the esteemed piece of fiction called the Rugrats Theory.
I like theory stuff, or rather, I liked theory stuff before it was ruined by several, popular
Matt
outlets. What?
By several Matt Pats.
Abysmii is the first one to mention Matt Pat. Ding, ding, ding. We have a winner in our theory episode. Abysmii mentioned Matt Pat for the first time. Tell him what he's won, DP.
You have won 7 hits of acid that you can take and go to the amusement park.
What if you married Matt Pat?
God damn it.
It's I'm thinking about making a channel that's about skepticism and inductive reasoning and doing it through the lens of pop culture and video games. How about instead
Freddy Fazbear.
Freddy Fazbear.
I like the idea that Mr. Sudoku is constantly worried about who Purple Guy is. The only Rugrat not to be fictional, however, was unborn Tommy's brother Dill. Phrase I'd never thought I'd utter in my life. However, Angelica didn't know the difference between Dill and her creations.
Is Dill short for Dylan?
No, it's short for Dillweed.
I never questioned that.
Dillweed. Dilbert.
Whatever. Dilbert.
Short for Dilliker.
Dildo.
Dilettante.
It's short for Dildo, named after his father. Although Dill didn't follow her commands. After endlessly crying and a refusal to disappear like the others did when Angelica was angry with them, she hit him. Due to this, he sustained a brain hemorrhage which resulted in a deformation. The bump on his head, you say.
Mm-hmm.
As he grew up, his damage only became more evident, and by the time he was 9 and all grown up, he lived as an outcast, being ridiculed for his weirdness and retardation. Just gonna drop that.
Hard
that right in there.
oration.
The immense guilt over this is what led Angelica to her drug use, and is what led Angelica to uncreate the Rugrats briefly until her experience with hallucinogenics.
Wait, she was doing hallucinogenics before all this because of her fucked up parent situation.
I don't know.
Which one is it?
Both.
Whatever.
It's a cartoon. What do you want it to make sense? It's for kids. Shut up.
That's just a theory. On a trip to Paris to find love, Chaz married a woman named Kira, which is Japanese for killer. He was actually going to marry a different woman named Coco.
Which is Japanese for chocolate.
Yes, but she just wanted him for his money, who had a daughter named Kimmy that was torn from her because she was a cocaine addict. Drugs, you know what? Drugs are funny, and this story is making me laugh.
I like picturing the person who wrote this. No offense to the person who wrote this, but I like the idea of them sitting there and saying, "What if it was all because of epic drugs?" They were on the weed, so they let their child get into the microwave. You know?
What if you take hits of acid, microwave baby, and shoot up Asians? Angelica imagined her from Kira's stories. He lost
Chaz?
his mind. Yeah, okay, Chaz, I gotcha. Lost his mind after the death of his wife and was in denial that she was ever a prostitute. Upon returning to America, Chaz and Kira married and they got her green card.
So it didn't mention
The most important part.
It didn't mention that Kira was a prostitute until that point, which is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
What if you go into prostitution for your green card?
Yeah.
It was actually a really happy and romantic story.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay.
Cool. Thank you for the telling.
Yay.
Just a story entitled "Romantic Story," and then the paragraph. Chaz and Kira married, and she got her green card. It was a happy and romantic story. The end.
Oof.
Kira continued struggling with addiction, but was relatively happy with her life and Chaz.
Susie was actually Angelica's only friend who entertained the thought of Angelica's creations. For her sake, Angelica spent the last days of her life in the back of the school cafeteria, imagining friends around her and playing with the lives of her creations.
You know, I gotta be honest with you, I'm feeling kind of lonely right now, and I don't know, you know, I'm just searching for someone to make a deep connection with. What if you imagine that you had a black friend?
God damn it. Oh, man. I mean, it makes sense. It makes sense. A lot of people on the internet do it nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
Just pretend. So there's a tweaked version of this story, which is the same story again, but it seems shorter. Do we want to go over the tweaked version quickly just to maybe rapid fire it?
No.
Could I read it all in its entirety quickly?
Sure.
You can do that on your Creepypasta channel.
I don't...
Creepypasta narration channel. Jesus Christ.
Fucking hell.
What
I was wondering if it actually is better. But yeah.
Wrote him banned by Disney.
That's some really fucking terrible advice.
What if you fuck yourself with a dill pickle?
Oh god. What if you get T-boned by a twuck? Can we end on that again or no? We gotta do one more. No, we gotta do one more because we can't end on that twice. DP, say something
We
really
absolutely can end on that twice.
funny. No.
What about instead of ending on something funny,
This has been the Fear Fiction Podcast. Your hosts are Abysmii, Dead Palette, and Slimebeast. Music by Abysmii. Art by C.F. Comer. Voiceover by Atticus Jackson. Edited by Elias the Intern. Subscribe to Fearfic on YouTube to stay up to date on new episodes.
You want a full reference number? 646.
Hey, is this where we're having the brand meeting?
Shh, you're late. Sit down.
Welcome to the YouTube headquarters, Hyperrealists. Again, I guess?
Oh, don't worry. This isn't part of that whole Elias is missing thing.
I see. Welcome for the first time, then.
Is she our official YouTube connection?
Yes, now stop talking. You'll get us in trouble.
We here at We here at YouTube want the best for our up-and-coming creators, and I couldn't help but notice that you three boys are definitely up-and-coming.
Damn right.
Shh.
Now that your channel has been well established, we're pleased to help guide you into the next phase of your creative death.
What?
I said creative journey. It sounds very similar to what you think you heard. Now, first of all, we need to address the sheer amount of profanity.
The fuck we do?
Abysmii, will you shut up? You're going to destroy my dream of becoming the next MadPad. I want to sell out so hard that even my grandchildren are missing a soul.
In order to be considered advertiser-friendly, we expect our creators to maintain a certain amount of linguistic integrity.
But we are not monetized.
Oh, but you will be. Our next update includes mandatory monetization for channels over 10,000 subscribers.
But we don't have 10,000 subscribers.
Oh, but you will. YouTube has already begun creating prefab channels with slightly boosted subscriber counts. I'm sure you won't mind if a few dead users subscribe to you. After all, you're a horror narration channel.
But we're not narrators.
Oh, but you will be. From vlogs to Let's Plays to top 10 real-life werewolf stories. YouTube prides itself on chasing trends that died several months earlier.
I'm not narrating anything. I barely want to be in this sketch.
Seconded, I did the whole narration thing already.
We're doing a review podcast. I'm sorry if that doesn't fit into your plans, but it's what we've decided to pursue.
Bring in the Fear Fiction Podcast replacements.
Excuse me?
Hey there, kids. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe.
Do you think this creepypasta could be true? I'm honestly not sure. Let us know in the comments below.
I love all of my fans. Send nudes? Just kidding. Unless... Oh, great. Now we have to kill everyone in the room and hide the bodies. Again.
I'm not cutting them up this time.
Okay, guys. Everyone pull a chainsaw out of my glop.
Long walks on the beach.
I'm Abysmii, man. I'm married, man.
Ooh, I have a wife and a life.
That's actually an even better plug.
I'm gonna name my child Abysmii Jr.
Do you take Abysmii to be your wife?
Your wife?
What? The priest? That's the priest? Nobody say anything. Okay, guys. Before the ceremony, we just want to let you know, unfortunately, Father O'Brien had a stroke this morning, but he still really wants to do his job. He still wants to do work, so we're just going to go with it.
Why do we find the medical tragedy of strokes so funny?
I don't know. It's one of the few things, one of the few medical problems you can make fun of, and literally nobody in your audience is going to have had it.
It's just an easy way to refer to slurred speech that isn't, oh, they're drunk. And strokes they suck, and they are not fun, but yeah, it's just one of those funny things, man. Oh no.
No, but the priest would go up there, and it's like, I need you to repeat after me. I Abysmii.
Thank God I didn't get a videographer.
The priest just keeps dropping the Bible to one side on the floor.
I like how we're assuming I got a religious wedding, which I didn't.
Oh,
at
please. All. We all know. Hyper-conservative, super Judeo-Christian Abysmii.
Family values Abysmii, that's what they call me.
Oh, God. We need to change that on the opening. No longer inebriated interstellar traveler. Family values Abysmii.
So, Abysmii, when can we expect Abysmii Jr.?
Well, there already is an Abysmii Jr.
When can we expect Abysmii Jr. Jr.?
after we eat Abysmii Jr.
What?
But Abysmii Jr. hasn't matured to the good, ripe taste yet, so it could be a few years.
When are we going to have Abysmeta Jr.?
Never.
The third. How about...
There's enough women in the world.
Oh! 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 Oh, no!
No.
Chinese premiere Abysmii.
And that was the plug.
What was it
The
for
one
again?
child policy. Everybody,
One child plug.
the Fear Fiction Podcast, official endorsers of the one child policy.
Hey, at least we'll get that sweet, sweet Chinese state-funded government backing. I'm gonna make some money off of this shit.
Yeah, that sweet, sweet Chinese money. What is it called again? Rupees? Rubles?
Which translated into English roughly translate to abort your females.
God damn it.